Hi, world music drumming people. Shantali again. I'm going to be going over doing a kind of joint concert piece using Windows this time. Quick note. So I'm using a program called Loom to do this. That's my face down here is the program Loom. Loom does not allow for recording from the computer when you're doing these. So if you happen to have a handheld recording device, you can record everything there and then just add your audio in later to make sure you get everything you want. So just a little side tip. So we are going to start in Movie Maker. And this time the video I'm using is a video of myself playing a song called Musho Wangu Urikadenga, which is a Zimbabwean marimba song. I'm recording soprano parts 1 and 2. I'm actually going to be doing this for my students for something called Cultural Night. I've recorded my video and you can see that I've input it into here. There is my sound right there. And then one of the things you'll notice is that the use of waveforms here actually makes this pretty easy to follow. So you can see my part, and if you can read waveforms, you can see my rhythm is 1 and 2, rest, 1 and 2, rest. So I'm going to go ahead and play just a little bit of this so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. So what I'm going to be doing in this particular case, because I can't do split screen in Movie Maker, this is a lot like the GarageBand one that I gave you earlier, is I actually have my other audio or my other video already down here, and I'm going to be inputting this little bit of audio up there. So just so you can hear, or this little video here, I'm going to play this little bit here. You hear my daughter dropping stuff in the background of that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of cuts. I'm going to split this one up, then I'm going to drop that into the higher spot. So I'm going to make a split right here. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be splitting right before I play that second part. So I set my black cursor where I want it to go. I go up to Video Tools, Edit, and I choose Split. And then I'm going to split again right after this long bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to undo that. I'm going to do that differently. I have these patterns that repeat in Musho Wangu Urikadenga. So I'm going to take the first set of patterns, which is a whole set through, and then I'm going to go back to the other one. So here's my whole set. It comes around. You can see it starts again there. If you aren't sure how to read waveforms, you can always listen through these. So here's that whole bit there. And that's where it starts again. So I'm going to set my little black cursor right before I start over again, and I'm going to split my video there. I'm now going to take this, and I'm actually going to put it at the beginning of the song. There's a couple ways I can do that. The easiest way, honestly, is to copy and paste. But you can also just drag. The problem with dragging is, especially if you have a long thing, this song's 3 minutes long, it takes a little bit to get to where you want to go. But I'll show you both. So there, I drag and I drop right at the beginning. And there we have it. Now I have that exact same pattern. You can see where the two line up here. So here is that and there's that. Well, if you look, there's where they start over again. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop myself right here, right before that starts. I'm going to, let's see, make sure I'm as close as I can get. I'm going to split it again, and I'm going to delete all of that. Now, theoretically, I did that correctly so that I don't have this kind of gap, and this is where it gets a little tricky. So I'm going to listen to the whole video from the beginning just to hear if that transition went well. What you'll hear is you'll hear the low part or the low part, then switching to the high part, and you'll see it in the video up here. You'll see in the next one I have a computer down in the corner here, and I'm wearing headphones as I'm listening to the original recording. So here we go. Now, I could make that a little smoother just by trimming it down a little bit more here, or by taking a tiny bit off the end here, because you saw I was just a little bit late. That's that really nitpicky kind of stuff that you need to do. I'm not going to do too much of that right now because I don't want to spend I don't want to take all your time with me doing this, but what I will do is I'll do another transition so you can see that copy and paste thing. And then we'll go back and we'll add audio and you'll see how that works. So I'm going to make another transition back to my other part, and I'm going to do that right here. Once again, just going to do a cycle through and there. Now, if you have a lot of parts, so like let's say you have a whole group, so you have a whole set of students, you could do just 1,000 of these cuts and have it work. You could just switch back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between all the different parts. If you're not going to do that, it's going to be a little choppy. Just depends. But you're just going to need to make sure that these line up. So so to explain, let's say I have like 100 kids. That's silly. Let's say I have 20 kids. 100 kids is a lot of kids. Say I have 20 kids doing a song together. And what I'm doing is I'm taking video of them, and then I'm just kind of switching. So I'll have one kid sing for a portion of time, then I'm switching to the next kid, and then I'm switching to the next kid. That way parents get to see their kid all the way through. And I'll show you how we're going to make sure that the audio comes out so that it's exactly what you want it to be the whole time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to split here because I know that's where I want my next cut to be. So I'm going to be dragging from lower down. So I'm going to make my split right there. Got my next split. Going to go down, going to find my other audio. Now here's the trick of this is I don't want this next cycle through here, remember? Because I already have it. This cycle right here to there is what I had my other group doing. So I'm going to set up at the spot that I want that split to happen anyways. And if I watch over here, I can see where my mallets are too, which can be helpful. I'm going to split here. But I don't actually want this because that's that second time through that I already have with my other video. So I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to go through, find where I start over again. This gets a little trickier because the pattern changes. Now I'm thinking it's right here, but I'm going to listen just to be sure. There it is. That's where my next pattern happens. So if I look at my waveform, I can kind of see it there. It's a little harder to see on this one because I have so much kind of junk happening in that space. I'm going to go ahead and reverse just a little bit again and listen for it again. Here, let me actually start way back here. There it is. That's my split. I'm going to split it right there. And that's the end of my next cycle. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it. See how it's highlighted in blue? I'm going to Control-C, copy. Or, again, you could always go up into, there's a copy option up here, probably in Home. And then I'm going to go back up. I'm going to find where I had my last cut. So 1 cycle, 2 cycles. I'm going to place my cursor right here at the end of this cycle. And I'm going to Control-V, paste. And there we go. So let's listen from the beginning. Let's see how that works. So this is the low part. There we go. That was actually a pretty good cut. I want to see how it does down at the bottom end here, though. There we go. So this, I would just keep going and going and going and doing this for a long time to kind of finish up this process. It would take me a while because I'm doing cut, 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 cut. It's not as convenient, but it is free and it is usable and it's on every computer automatically. So here's what I'm going to do. I am actually going to select all of these. So I'm going to hit Control-A. You'll notice that everything is highlighted in blue. I'm going to go up to this thing that says video volume and click on that. I'm going to mute them because I don't actually want to use that audio. You might have noticed that you didn't hear everything. You heard whatever part was visible at the time. Here, let me play, make sure that I have my video off. There we go. No sound. I'm going to be adding music to this. I'm going to go up to add music. I'm going to select that and I'm going to find my music up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And there we go. So that is the audio that I already did. And what I did originally is I split the audio out and then I combined those parts together. So I already have an existing audio. Technically what I did is I recorded this on the video, and then I also had a microphone placed so that I could record the two at the same time, because I'm going to turn this into a video I'm going to send to my students eventually. So here is the video with those parts together, and you'll see where they split. And if you look really close, you can see where my waveforms don't line up. And that is a fixable problem. So I'm going to go ahead and just play. You'll see that it got worse the further on I went because these don't line up. Again, that is a very nitpicky kind of thing that you have to do, of cutting a little bit of picture out, a little bit of picture out until they line up. And you'll just be looking at the existing audio line here, so existing waveforms here, and matching them up with the waveforms here. In fact, if you notice, I don't match up at the beginning. And I could do a simple move, just kind of shift my audio just a little bit over and get a better quality sound just kind of to start with. And it lines up, by the way, with where you see that line is. See that gray line? That's what it's lining up to. And so right now you can already see my waveforms line up a lot better all the way across the song. So just that's a quick and simple way. You saw those transitions, hopefully. Here's one of them. And so the more of those that you do, you can kind of have a whole bunch of people. You can make those cuts a little prettier by doing crossfades and things like that. So I'll go ahead and do one of those. So I'm going to go to visual effects, I'm going to go to animations, and I'm going to choose one of these different kind of transitions that happens in between, and it'll flip. I can trade them. I'm going to do a crossfade, and I'm going to do that crossfade. Well, actually, let's see. Let's go with this one, just a wipe, and I'll just do a diagonal wipe, and we'll watch that so you can see it. You'll see that my audio got way off again on that because of that crossfade. And so those are things that you need to think about as you do it. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that because I don't mind the hard cuts myself. I think they're fun. I think they look interesting. And those crossfades, they do change and stretch out your stuff a little bit. So you're looking for a little more work on that. So that's how you use Movie Maker to do this. It is not the best option, but it is an option that does work. So it's something to look into. So next up, I'm going to show you a program called VSDC. Let me double check the name of that. Make sure I get you right. VSDC Video Editor. So we'll take a look at that one now. Okay, so VSDC Video Editor is another free video editor that you can use. It is not the best video editor out there, but it is free, and it does have a lot of things that you can use. It's a little, as far as like usability goes, it's kind of a steep learning curve, but we're going to go over the basics for this. So we'll start by clicking on here, and we'll do a blank project. And as we do that, we can name it different things. I'm going to call this Musha Wangu Urikudenga. And now I'm going to skip all the other stuff. It doesn't matter. You can put that in there if you want to. Honestly, just for cataloging. And there we go. So once I get into here, I need to add in different items. And so I'm going to be adding in those two videos, and I'm going to be adding in my sound. One thing to notice, this black screen that you see here in the very middle, that is your full video frame. So if you place anything in the gray over here, it will be cut off. You won't be able to see it all. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add an object. And what I'm going to add is I'm going to add video. So I go to add object, and I go down to here to add video. And you can see there's so many different things in here. I have text that I can add. I can draw some shapes in there. I can create a sprite, which if you've ever done coding, you know what a sprite is. It's a character within a video game. I can add a chart. I can add an animation. I can actually draw in, and I can animate in this if I wanted to. I'm not going to do all that today because I'm just making a split screen video. So I'm going to go to video, and there we go. I have this video loaded onto a little USB drive, which came with my camera. And so I'm going to go ahead and load that up. There we go. There's my first video. So this video has a couple of cuts in it that I need to make. So I'm going to take a second to make those cuts really fast, just to show you. Basically, it's very similar to what you've seen me do with with GarageBand or any of those, or not GarageBand, but with iMovie, I'm just going to place my cursor where I want to go, where I want it to go, and then I'll make my cuts from in there. You can see all my cutting options are up here. I have a tool called a cutout fragment. I have a split, which is the one that I'm going to be using, all of those. So I'm going to be placing my cursor where I want to start, and then I'm going to be splitting there. I'm just going to click that. It's going to split my frame. I'm not going to do this slow and like meticulously on video because it'll take me a while, but just so you can see it, I'm just going to kind of fast forward through it as we go. And there we go. There's my first frame cut. I had to take several takes on this one because I have my kids and they were talking while I was playing. So I had to, cut shape. So here is that first clip, just so you can see it'll pop up in the screen here. There we go. That's it. You heard some extra noise on that one. It's because it's a different video editor. Now, one thing I want you to notice, this came up. If you've ever worked in Photoshop or if you've ever worked in any kind of image editing, you recognize this. This is a transform. So I can shrink, I can rotate my image right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it until I get that shape, and I'm going to shrink it into this top corner of my video. Now I'm going to be adding in my next video. I'm going to set my cursor back to 0. And I'm going to go to Add Object. I'm going to choose Video again. But this time, when I import my video, when I get these options, I'm going to create a new layer. So I'm going to start it from where the cursor is, and then I'm going to create a new layer, Add New Layer. What that will do is it'll create two simultaneous videos, and when you add it, you'll see it. So there is my second layer, and you notice it covered up my other one. Well, I could do some opacity things to change that. I could also just simply get the right click, shrink it down, and there we have two videos. Now I can, at this point, fiddle around with these. I'm going to try and make these exactly half. There are 7 parts in Mushowengu or Kadanga. I would not do this as 7, but it gives you the basic idea. Once again, I'm going to cut this to where I need it to be to make sure that I get to my my actual sound that I want to have. So I'm going to do that really quick to make sure that I start and lock up together. All right, so you saw that took me a lot more finagling. It's because I can do more with this one than I can do with other ones, which means I have a lot more range to make mistakes in, a lot more range to edit in. So just a couple of notes on the things that I did in case you were wondering in there. First of all, I increased my my timeline scale, which allowed me to see more of the video that I was doing since I had to edit on it. Next thing you should have seen me do is I changed my layers. So I switched layer 2, which was on top down to the bottom. That gave me visual on layer 1, so I could make layer 1 bigger and see it. You'll notice that I made each one bigger as I went to make sure that I could see which one I was working on and make sure that I got the work done there. So as I said, there's a lot more that you can do with this, which makes it more versatile, but it also makes it a little harder to learn. It's something you might have to play around with a little bit. So now that I have my video lined up as close as I'm going to get it, again, I could spend a ton of time doing this. I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in that audio that I had before, because once again, I want to have the audio be as good as it can possibly be. Then if my video doesn't quite line up, we talked about the fact that it's easier to cut audio down than it is to cut video, because video has to go by frame, not by specifically numbers. If you didn't see that in the last video, video goes by frames, so 30 frames per second means every second has 30 frames. I can only cut a video at a frame, whereas with audio, I can cut it wherever I want because it's a time thing. That means that it's harder to line up video than it is to line up audio. So I want to have a very good audio file, a very good sounding audio file to make sure that if I have something off in my video, particularly if I'm doing split screen like this, people don't even notice it. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. And that'll help me to get a better quality product to show people. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add back in that audio that I showed you guys earlier. So let me grab that. Now, of course, you'll notice that I made a mistake. I didn't have my cursor in the right spot, so I had to change it around. One problem with this program is it does not give you wave files, or not wave files, but waveforms. So you can't line up by waveform. It's a frustration of this program, but it's free, and that's the one takeaway they have. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mute my other projects. So to do that, I'm going to click on them to make sure they're selected. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go to audio track volume. And what I'm going to set my audio track volume, I'm going to grab this little slider and slide it all the way off to -100 on both of these. That way the only audio I'm hearing is coming from the original track I did. So I'm going to go ahead and jump backwards and I'm going to play this one. Maybe. You can see that my audio doesn't line up. That's another nudge, move, nudge, move, nudge, move. I don't want to take your time doing that. This is a long enough video as it is, but it's just like I did here. When you saw me do that, I kind of cut and then I nudged it and I cut and I nudged it. I'll go ahead and move it a little bit. Let me go ahead back and here, take a look at it to see what it looks like. To make sure that I can hear that sound and get a sense of what's wrong with it. So I can see, I'll listen and I'll watch and I'll see, when do my mallets hit, when did the sound happen? So my mallets hit after the sound. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move myself back. I have mallet sound right away, and I'm just going to go until my mallets are impacting this things for the first time. I'm going to go real slow. It's called scrolling. There we go. Right there is the frame where my mallets hit. And I'm going to move this to line up with my cursor. And let's see if that helps. Let's see. Let's listen. You see, again, I could spend a lot of time doing this right now. I don't want to. I will show you a video of this finished when I'm done. But that's the kind of thing that you have to do. Is you have to look at it, listen to it, look at it, listen to it, see how it works to make sure that it's exactly what you want it to be. It's going to take time, so that kind of comes down to it. Now, the question is, what is more important to you? If it is more important for you to have multiple people showing up on the screen at the same time, this is the program for you on Windows. You can do, I would not do any more than 4 videos at a time, because if you get more than that, people are going to get extremely small and hard to see. You don't want that. You want parents to be able to see their kids. So what you would do is you would create multiple layers with all your kids. You would resize all the layers so that they lined up. Let's say I had 20 kids. I would put 5 kids in each quadrant of this. I would picture their video so that they were the right size. And what I would do is I would simply do that cut and split thing that we would have done anyways. I just would do it like that. So I would have my 4 frames with my 4 kids. I would cut all 4 frames at the same time to go to a different kid. That way I have a change. My audio keeps going underneath it, and my parents can see this next person. So it's like switching between that. You can do 20 kids on here at a time, but that's going to be almost a mosaic, and no one's going to see anyone. They're not going to appreciate it. What they really want to see is their kids. So 5 kids here. Let's say I split it after the first frame, or first I split my song into fifths, and I go to a fifth into the song, whatever that looks like or sounds like. Make sure you're not cutting to kids when there's just audio in the background, because then your kids are just standing there. And they're not singing, and parents aren't going to be happy because they want to see their kids singing, right? But I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut every single video that is not the video that I want visible at that spot. So I'm going to cut here and cut there, because I can only layer, change the direction of my layers in pre-edit, not during post. So once I have my video created, it'll create. So to give you an idea what that would look like, I would go here. Let's say that I had 2 videos here. One of those videos was this person playing, another video was another person playing. I would make a little snip right there, and then I would delete everything else after that. Or if I was going to bring them back, I'd delete to where I brought them back, like you saw me doing here in Movie Maker. Exact same idea, but with split screen, so you're going to be able to see more people. Okay, the last thing we need to talk about is how to get this out. In Movie Maker, you export files from the home option. So you go to home, you go to save movie. There are all kinds of options in save movie. It defaults to saving it to your computer. There's YouTube, there's audio only, all of these things. If you're sending it to YouTube, make sure you have a YouTube account already ready. I would just send it here and then send it to whoever's going to put up your videos, to your parents, or send them the files yourselves. Within here, you send out your video through projects, and you go to export project. And inside of here, you have the same basic options for YouTube. You can send it to an MP4. You can send it to a WebMV. Don't send it as a Flash. Nobody uses Flash anymore. You can send it to Facebook even. But you have to have all those things loaded ahead of time. And you'll just send out your video, and it'll go that way. All right, so I hope that was helpful. I know that it's a lot of information. If you really want to get in depth on how to use VSDC Video Editor, I can do one of those. I just wanted to give you an overview of how to do it so that you had the best possible option. For now, though, I hope this is great and helpful. Please give me feedback so that I know what I can do to make them better in the future. Bye, guys.